Hey guys, this is Michael Atkins.
And this is Wade Rosenbaum.
Let's learn about some totally tubular 80s facts.
Cha! This is gonna be butter.
Tubular technology in the 80s. The Sony Walkman 1980. It's a personal, mobile music listening device. I get to listen to whatever I want. The Dynatac cell phone 1984. It's also commercial, personal. I don't have to be at home to use it. I can carry it anywhere I want. I can get to call my Zeeks. Gamers finally get what they deserve. With the Nintendo NES in 1985, I get to play Super Mario Bros. The Sony Discman 1984. Later VHS, I can load up my songs on CDs now. The personal computer released by IBM in 1981. That's pretty gnarly, dude. Music in the 80s, the music revolution. MTV, the TV channel, 24/7 music playing. There's Michael Jackson, Madonna, Whitney Houston, famous music stars that their careers get propelled in the 80s by their hit songs. Alternative rock gets popular, hip hop, rap even. It's a music revolution. Leadership of the USA and the world. Ronald Reagan, president from 1981 to 1989, brought about the conservative resurgence. His policies of Reaganomics, or supply side economics, where the wealthy get they get tax cuts, so they invest in the private sector. George H.W. Bush, elected in the election 1988, and the Soviet Union it disbands in his presidency. Gorbachev, the new Soviet Union leader in 1985 to 1991, brings Glasnost, which ends political oppression of Soviet citizens, and also Perestroika, which is the political opening of the Soviet Union. Saddam Hussein, leader of Iraq. Syed al-Khamenei, the leader of Iran. We sell weapons to him against the war in Iraq, and the money we get from that we sell to Jose Daniel Ortega Salvador, or actually the forces against him in Nicaragua. General Manuel Noriega, the leader of Panama, that we take out because Panama's a drug country. That's Ronald Reagan. That's Gorbachev. Domestic issues, decline of union membership. Even though that Reagan was at one point a president of a union, he was very strict against unions, and union membership among non-farm workers declined massively. Roe versus Wade, the decision to make abortion legal, some of the this was actually like amended partially, and which made minors have to have parent permission to have abortions, because conservatives did not like abortion. The recession 1982, the worst recession since the Great Depression, fixed though, however, by Reaganomics, and the increased deficit by spending too much on the military. So, international issues. Israel invaded Lebanon with the U.S.'s support because Lebanon was going through some civil conflict. The Tiananmen Square incident in 1989. Supposedly, there were pro-democratic protests that were stopped by tanks. This is refuted, however. The reformer Gorbachev comes to power in the Soviet Union. and he brings glasnost and perestroika. However, his reform policies caused revolutions in communist Eastern Europe. These countries rebel and they become capitalists, and then the Soviet Union breaks up and the Cold War ends. There's genocide in Yugoslavia that causes it to dissolve, and autocratic rulers in Panama and Nicaragua cause the U.S. to intervene.
Next, we're looking at some choice fashion of the 1980s, which a lot of it can be explained by different social changes and cultural phenomena, such as the exercise craze, which led to exercise wear, tracksuits, and Reeboks. Next, there was the hip hop cultural phenomenon that brought about bucket hats, dookie chains, four-finger rings, and parachute pants. And some other choice fashion that was during the 80s was neon, denim, fanny packs, and Ray-Bans, as well as some hairstyles such as big hair from perms, rat tails, and mullets. Next is sports, where we can see some pretty big events such as the Miracle on Ice with the US team in hockey defeating the Soviets at the Olympics, as well as football becoming very popular with the Chicago Bears releasing their Super Bowl shuffle to celebrate their wins. Next, we go on to boxing, where we see Mike Tyson beating Michael Spinks in one of the shortest heavyweight championship matches. And then we have some baseball scandals, such as the Pete Rose betting scandal, which got him banned from baseball, and the cocaine scandal, which involved many baseball players taking drugs during games. Next is the war on drugs, or just drugs in America. Some of the acts that were put in place to combat drug abuse were the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986 and the Act of 1986 put in made it illegal for designer drugs, which were imitation of prescription drugs, and instituted minimum sentences for drug-related charges. The Act of 1988 stated the U.S. goal of having a drug-free America, as well as establishing the Office of National Drug Control Policy to oversee anti-drug policies. And crack cocaine was a very scary drug for Americans because it was very addictive, cheap at the time, and incited gang violence around the country. And to some other programs that worked on getting rid of the drug problem in America were prevention, which was originally scare tactics against people, but moved more towards educating children against drug use.
This is your brain on drugs.
Some of the greed in the 1980s can be seen through tax cuts and government spending reductions to give more money to uh, the wealthy through the trickle-down economics, Reaganomics policies, deregulations of business so they can keep more money and not have to comply to as many government restrictions, and then extreme conspicuous consumption through the buying of various goods. And some of these expensive goods were the phone, the TVs, microwaves, video games, and computers.
Now wait a minute, y'all. This dance ain't for everybody. Only
Some of the gender role things in 1980 was that women were more accepted to be in the workforce and work alongside men to provide for their house. But men were still seen as the main household provider for their income. And men also started to be seen as caregivers to children and housekeepers as well, through shows such as Full House. College education was now equal between men and women, and women began to be in positions of power, such as Sandra Day O'Connor as the first woman in the Supreme Court.
Citations: https://www.discogs.com/Guns N' Roses Sweet Child O' Mine Release 1. That has been our presentation.